You know that feeling, right? That
Yeah.
kind of quiet hum of discontent, maybe. It can bubble up sometimes late at night, maybe when things quiet
Yeah,
down.
like that 2 a.m. moment someone mentioned.
Exactly. It reminds me of a listener, Mark. Well, we'll call him Mark. Successful lawyer, good money, the whole 9 yards. But he just felt empty.
Mm-hmm.
He actually left this high-powered firm, ended up teaching underprivileged kids. And when I asked him why, he basically said, I finally felt like I was doing something that mattered, you know, even with less security.
Wow. That really hits on something deep, doesn't it? That strange ache, as some researchers put it, questioning where we're headed.
Right.
And that's really the territory Carl Jung dug into, especially in, well, his very personal work, the Red Book. So this deep dive, let's think of it as us trying to understand that quest for purpose. What actually fuels that feeling?
Totally. And it's not just like navel gazing, is it? There was a 2016 study, I think, in the Journal of Positive
Oh,
Psychology.
yeah, I know the one.
It found real links between having a strong sense of purpose and, well, actual benefits, like living longer, being more optimistic, even recovering faster if you get sick.
Absolutely. It shows that having that why isn't just a nice to have, it actually impacts our physical well-being tangibly.
Hmm.
And, the flip side, as Jung thought, is that without that meaning, people can kind of shut down. You see depression, burnout, just feeling like you're going through the motions.
Yeah, just existing.
So grappling with purpose, it's not really a luxury, is it? It seems pretty fundamental to just feeling alive, vital.
Okay, so let's dive in then. We're talking purpose. But almost right away, Jung kind of flips the script on
He
us.
does, yeah.
He suggests it's not really about what do I want,
Yeah.
but something maybe harder. What am I willing to sacrifice for?
That's the kicker, isn't it? It can feel a bit uncomfortable.
Definitely. Let's try and unpack that.
Well, what's really powerful about Jung's take is that he didn't see this need for purpose as superficial at all. He thought it was like a core psychological drive, something deeper than just seeking pleasure or, basic survival.
Like a built-in compass.
Exactly, like a North Star
Yeah.
or, yeah, a personal compass, something that gives direction and meaning even when things get tough, which, let's face it, they do.
Right. And this idea from the Red Book, this voluntary sacrifice, that's key here, isn't it?
Totally central. It's not about getting more stuff or achieving things externally. It's about consciously choosing to let go of the shallower stuff, the things that don't really feed your like true self.
And that self he talks about, it's not about being famous or successful in society's eyes, right?
Mm.
It's more internal.
Precisely. It's about inner transformation, which leads to that really potent quote of his.
Oh, yeah.
The highest truth is one and the same with the deepest suffering. The self is born in sacrifice.
Wow. Okay, that's heavy. What does that even mean? The self is born in sacrifice.
It's a radical idea, isn't it? It suggests that our biggest growth, our deepest understanding, often comes when we willingly face difficulty, when we give up things that are easier or more comfortable, but ultimately less meaningful.
Okay. And it's important you're saying that this isn't just about like religious sacrifice or being a martyr.
Not necessarily, no. It's broader. It's about intentionally giving up something you value. That could be comfort, sure, or time, maybe safety, sometimes even aspects of your ego.
Right, like maybe not needing to be right all the time.
Yeah, exactly. For something you see as having, well, greater intrinsic worth, something bigger.
Okay, so there's this crucial difference then between sacrifice being forced on you versus choosing it.
A massive difference. If something's forced on you, losing a job, say it can just lead to anger, resentment, maybe even trauma. But when you choose to give something up, that's where the growth happens.
Right, like deciding to delete Instagram for a month to focus on writing your novel versus, I don't know, your parent changing the password on you.
Exactly. Perfect analogy. The choice changes everything. It changes the experience and what you get out of it.
That makes total sense. It reminds me a bit of Angela Duckworth's work on grit, that idea of deliberate practice.
Doing the hard things on purpose.
Yeah, choosing to do the difficult stuff over and over because it leads somewhere important. It sounds like finding purpose might require that same willingness to, well, give up the easy path sometimes.
Very often, yes. And Jung connects to this when he said something like, the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely.
Why terrifying?
Well, because that complete acceptance often means looking at the parts of ourselves we don't love, the messy bits, and maybe sacrificing those easy rewards or quick fixes we use to avoid dealing with them.
Okay, so we make these sacrifices, but for what exactly? What are these greater things we're choosing?
Well, the sources suggest it's usually quite personal, but there are common themes, right? It often centers around our core values or beliefs we hold dear, or other people, family, community, or contributing something beyond ourselves.
Like justice or creativity.
Exactly, or helping others. Things that tend to have a more lasting impact, you know?
Mhm.
Something beyond just our own immediate pleasure or comfort.
It makes me think of, like, getting a gym membership but never actually going.
Huh. Yeah.
Well, you have the potential for health, but without the sacrifice, the time, the effort, getting sweaty, there's no real gain.
Yeah.
Purpose without sacrifice might be like that, just
Yeah.
potential.
That's a great way to put it. And Jung actually warned about ending up in a life of, I think he called it shallow habits and quiet boredom, if we don't choose something worth struggling for.
Oof, quiet boredom. That sounds grim.
Doesn't it? It implies that avoiding all challenge might actually lead to a less meaningful life overall,
There's that line you mentioned from the Red Book, too. The soul suffers not because life is tough.
but because we avoid the tough parts that help us grow.
Yeah, it totally reframes how we think about difficulty, doesn't it?
It really does. It makes you think, okay, maybe the point isn't to avoid all pain, but to choose which pain is worthwhile. What are you willing to be uncomfortable for? Precisely. What struggle are you willing to embrace because it aligns with something deeply important to you?
And that links back to what Emily Esfahani-Smith talked about in her TED Talk, right?
Yeah.
Belonging and service to others as pillars of meaning.
Absolutely. That service, that contribution, almost always involves some level of sacrifice, doesn't it? Giving your time, your energy, maybe putting others' needs before your own immediate desires.
Yeah, and that act of giving, of serving something bigger, that seems to be where a lot of that deep purpose comes from. It leaves a mark.
It does, both on the world and, maybe more importantly, on us, on our own sense of self and meaning.
Okay, let's make this even more concrete. Can we talk through some examples? Where do we see this sacrifice-purpose dynamic playing out?
Sure, history gives us some pretty stark examples, like Socrates.
Right, choosing the poison.
Yeah, choosing death rather than abandoning his commitment to truth and philosophical inquiry. His sacrifice was entirely in service of his principles, something bigger than his own survival.
And you could look at the story of Jesus too, couldn't you? Regardless of your specific beliefs.
Absolutely. From a purely narrative standpoint, it's a powerful story about willing sacrifice, enduring immense suffering driven by ideals like love, forgiveness, faith. It shows how meaning can be forged through suffering if it's for a deeply held reason.
But it's not just these huge historical or religious figures, right? It happens every
Oh,
day.
completely. Think about parents. The amount of sleep, free time, maybe even career goals they sacrifice. It's immense.
Yeah, definitely.
But for many, raising children, nurturing that next generation provides this incredibly profound sense of purpose that makes those sacrifices feel, well, worth it, meaningful.
Or like first responders, firefighters, paramedics, they literally risk their own safety.
Exactly. That's a daily chosen sacrifice for the good of the community. It's right there.
And the key thing, looping back, is that it's chosen. It's different from just having bad stuff happen to you.
Crucially different. Losing your job or going through a breakup is painful, absolutely, but it doesn't automatically create purpose. It's the voluntary aspect of sacrifice that seems linked to growth.
And there was that Harvard Business Review study you mentioned.
Yeah, 2018, it suggested a link between people who voluntarily took on difficult tasks or made sacrifices at work and experiencing growth in leadership and feeling a stronger sense of purpose. So there's some research backing this up, too.
Okay, this is all fascinating, but it brings it right back to us, doesn't it?
Yeah.
To you listening. That big question.
What am I willing to sacrifice for?
Yeah. And it feels
Yeah.
big, maybe daunting. And the sources suggest the answer isn't always obvious, right? It can change.
That's exactly right. Dr. William Damon at Stanford talks about purpose as a developing commitment. It's not usually a lightning bolt moment. It evolves as we live, as we learn, as our values shift.
So how do we even start thinking about this for ourselves?
Yeah.
Where do we look?
Well, one place to start is just noticing. Pay attention to where you already willingly put your time and energy, especially the hard stuff. What do you choose to do even when it's difficult or when nobody's making you?
That's a good pointer.
And also, maybe not running away from pain quite so fast. Jung's idea wasn't to eliminate suffering, which is impossible anyway, but to ask, what is this difficulty teaching me? What is it asking of me?
Right. Like that woman you mentioned who lost her son.
Yes, and channeled that immense grief into creating a support group. She didn't erase the pain, but she transformed her relationship to it by using it in service of others, finding meaning in the hardship.
So the question becomes less, how do I avoid this? And more, what is this asking of me? Is it asking me to be stronger, kinder, more
Mhm.
present?
Exactly. And it's really okay not to know the answer immediately. Seriously. It's a question to live with, to revisit at different stages of life.
You start small.
Yeah.
Like, what have I already sacrificed for in the past that felt worth it?
That's a great starting point. Think back. Maybe you stayed up all night helping a friend finish a project, or you gave up weekends training for a marathon, or you consistently put aside money for a cause you believe in. What made that feel meaningful? What does that tell you about your values?
And listening to your gut, too. That sense of intuition.
Definitely. Tuning into that inner voice, maybe journaling helps some people see patterns, notice those little sparks, the things that feel important that pull you in, even if they're challenging.
Right. Finding that intersection. What did you call it? The sweet spot.
Yeah, potentially finding where your talents, the things you're good at, and your passions, the things you genuinely care about, overlap with maybe a need you see in the world around you.
And that doesn't have to be like solving world hunger, right?
Absolutely not. It could be raising kind kids. It could be creating beautiful art or music. It could be mentoring someone. The scale isn't the point. The point is that feeling of alignment, fulfillment, maybe even excitement.
But the warning is there too, isn't it? If you ignore that pull,
Yeah. If you consistently ignore that inner nudge towards something that feels meaningful, even if it's hard, Jung suggests life can start to feel, well, off,
yeah.
like something crucial is missing.
Okay, so summing this all up, the big takeaway seems to be that real deep meaning often doesn't just happen to us. We kind of build it through choosing to sacrifice for things that truly matter to us.
Exactly. It's the chosen sacrifice, not the forced kind, that seems to build character, build resilience, and ultimately helps us find our why.
And having that why can make even the really tough parts of life feel more bearable, maybe even meaningful.
It provides context, it provides direction. So that question we keep coming back to.
What would I willingly sacrifice for? Keep asking it. Let it simmer. And know that the answer isn't static. It'll grow and change as you do.
Yeah, and maybe, just maybe, start by noticing the small sacrifices you already make, the little choices, the things you give up time or energy for without really thinking about it. What might they be telling you about what truly matters deep down? It's all part of your own, weird, beautiful journey.